Significant escalation in the conflict in the Middle East today, October the 26th, 2024. As take a look at the latest headlines with me. This just coming out today. World War III fears explode as Iran feared to shift on nuclear weapons amid direct war with Israel. And take a look at this. The United States reportedly ready if Iran responds to Israeli attacks. There will be consequences. Now, we are hearing Iran is now saying today that there will be a response. I'm going to be sharing with you the latest coming out on this, video footage and articles. And as you can see, all of these dated today, October the 26th. These are just coming out just today, you guys. Now, take a look at this. Israel's Day of Repentance, this is what they're calling the attack, strikes against Iran. They will continue if the terror regime responds, the IDF warns. So we are hearing that there will be escalations that are going to be unfolding here. And we have heard, like I shared with you, Iran is going to be retaliating to this. And I'm going to share with you the footage so you can hear it for yourself. Now, Israel had warned Iran before Operation Day of Repentance hit, don't respond. But we're hearing Iran is saying they will be retaliating, things will be escalating, and the United States is saying that they are ready for potential nuclear responses. And Iran says that it has the right to self-defense after Israel's attack, and the U.S. is urging an end to the missile exchanges, trying to de-escalate the situation. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys the latest on this. As I mentioned, these articles are going to be linked in the description below. I cite all the sources, put it on the screen, read right from it. These all coming out today, October the 26th, 2024, as we're now hearing the responses are starting to unfold from the retaliatory attacks that took place from Israel last night against Iran. And this was in response to the 181 ballistic missiles that were fired against Israel on October 1st. And we're hearing that there will be responses and retaliations. Things will be escalating. And this morning I asked people, do you think that Iran is going to be retaliating to this after we heard the warnings from Israel saying, do not respond? And I saw everybody in the comments saying Iran is going to respond to this. And now we're hearing, those of you that said that, you were correct. It looks like Iran is saying they have a right to defend themselves. We had heard them say, you're going to see here in a second, we've heard them say that they have an obligation to peace in the region. However, they cannot let this just slide by. They're saying there will be retaliatory attacks. And as a result of this, Israel is saying they will escalate. There were other areas that they did not hit. We heard there were 3 potential targets: nuclear facilities, oil refineries, military assets and leaders. We heard that military targets was the primary focal point of the Day of Repentance attacks that took place last night, but now there are still nuclear facilities and oil refineries. And as I mentioned to you, there are concerns of potential World War III, as they're saying that Iran could be shifting to a nuclear focus after what has unfolded. Now, we will see. I will keep you guys up to date every step of the way, and I'm going to be sharing with you the information as it comes out, like we are seeing today, October the 26th, 2024, so you can see it and hear it for yourself. Now, do me a favor, if you appreciate that, take a quick second for me and hit that like button. I see we've got 1,638 people in the room with me, 325 likes. Just takes a second, helps out the channel a ton. I appreciate it. Also, in addition to that, if you want to stay up to date, it's totally free. Why not go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell. It's free. I'll keep you up to date on everything. I cite all the sources, put it on the screen, read right from it. And also additional resources are going to be linked down in the description below for you, so that way you can actually click these articles, see exactly what it is I'm referencing, try to hold myself accountable to you, the community, so that way you know I'm not just making stuff up, pulling it out of the air, but I'm actually finding sources and reporting to you what is actually coming out. So let's go ahead and dive right in. And again, if you appreciate that, hit the like button. First time here, subscribe. And also thank you for all the support of those that are members hitting that join button. But let's go ahead and get right to it so you can see the latest that is coming out and the video footage. So let's start off with this one first coming out that says World War III fears explode as Iran feared to shift on nuclear weapons amid direct war with Israel. Now it says Israel bombarded Iran with a series of airstrikes on Saturday following early missile attacks from Tehran as tensions in the Middle East are near a breaking point. And you can see this came out today, October 26, 2024. It says Iran's top strategists are reportedly escalating efforts to acquire and test nuclear weapons following the assassination of Hamas's leader and Tehran's ally, Yahya Sinwar. Now, in addition to that, I've shared with you as well that we've heard warnings that his elimination could have also meant the elimination of all of the hostages that Israel has been pushing for. And we have heard that if those hostages have been eliminated, that this could highly escalate the war. And we saw on Tuesday of last week in Tehran a memorial that was lifted up, a mural, and it had photos of all of the hostages, and written in Hebrew letters, it said, "The hostages will never be freed." So a lot of people speculating that they could have been eliminated, which will be another step to significant escalation and a very provocative move in the conflict happening in the Middle East. Now, the article says that the Iranian leadership suffered a significant blow when the Israeli forces assassinated Sinwar in Rafah on October 16th as a part of their ongoing offensive in Gaza. Sinwar was the brains behind the October 7th attack on Israel that led to approximately 1,200 fatalities, predominantly civilians, and the abduction of hundreds of people. This massacre triggered Israel's war in the Gaza Strip, resulting in tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians losing their lives alongside Hamas's militants and millions being displaced from their homes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu subsequently extended the war beyond Gaza to target the group's Hezbollah in Lebanon, which has its stronghold in the southern regions of neighboring Lebanon. Now, in line with Netanyahu's threats, Israel bombarded Iran with a series of airstrikes on Saturday following earlier missile attacks as tensions in the Middle East neared a breaking point. Now, instead of supporting Israel's enemies, known as the Axis of Resistance, Iran may now aggressively seek to acquire and even test nuclear weapons. So we're hearing that they have been fighting through these proxy groups for quite some time. Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, funding and supporting them, sending weaponry their way so they can attack Israel through these proxy groups. Now they're saying they might be shifting away from the Axis of Resistance to start focusing on nuclear weapons testing to begin potentially using this against Israel. And we've even heard the United States as well. And that is why we heard Donald Trump say, why don't we let Israel just go ahead and hit nuclear facilities, address the existential threat that is not only posed to Israel, but also the United States. That is what we're hearing from former President Donald Trump. Now, Arash Azizi, historian and visiting fellow at Boston University, told the Mirror that the Iranian regime has invested billions of dollars and decades of time into building up a coalition of anti-Israeli militias, the Axis of Resistance. So it's not very easy for it to shift its strategy now. But the fact that the country now finds itself in a direct conflict with Israel has alarmed many in the Iranian establishment, and there is a possibility of such a shift. Sinwar's assassination reinforced that, although the assassination of Nasrallah and Israel's new round of attacks on Hezbollah are a more important factor for Tehran. Now, realistically, though, a major shift can only occur after power passes from the current supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, who is 85 and thus not expected to rule for a very long time. As a matter of fact, I think I just saw articles today coming out that they're saying there are rumors that he has fallen ill. One major shift in the last year is that now an increasing number of Iranian strategists advocate for the country to get nuclear weapons and to test them. So we are hearing these warnings coming out of this potential shift now after we are seeing this retaliatory attack coming to pass from Israel. The expert added, now that the Axis of Resistance is failing to deter Israel, the nuclear deterrent is the only way, their argument goes. But this path has a lot of inherent problems too, and it won't be as easy to follow as its proponents seem to suggest. An escalating crisis in the Middle East also presents a prime opportunity for global disruptors such as Russian President Vladimir Putin as well. Now, security experts previously told the outlet that the tyrant is joyfully observing a gathering storm that could easily lead to a global war. And that is why we're hearing World War III being vocalized quite a bit with all the conflict that is taking on around the world. The U.S. and other Western leaders, they have urged Israel to exercise restraint, despite Netanyahu's clear indication that the nation would retaliate following Iran's most recent attacks. So we are hearing that there will be retaliatory strikes. Now, I had shared with you that people were wondering maybe they're not going to be responding because it was a very targeted retaliation that we saw from Israel. It hit specific military targets. I even had people from Iran messaging me on social media platforms saying, I didn't even know attacks were going on in my area. But what we're hearing is it was very focused. So some speculated that maybe Iran would say, okay, we're not going to be responding. Well, now we're hearing, no, that is not the case, that they are going to be responding to this. Let me share with you the latest coming out here. This coming out from the New York Post, and they actually are sourcing a video here that I'm going to play for you from Fox News, so that way you can see exactly what they're saying on this. Go ahead and take a look.
All right, just giving you the latest on that Israel attack on Iran. It was the largest such attack on Israel's part in history ever. Never seen anything like it. 10 Iranian guards, we are told, have died in this attack. Tehran is saying, though, that the damage itself was fairly limited. Whether that would mean a limited response, if any, from Iran, the foreign minister there put everyone on notice that will not be the case, that there will be a response. Danny Danon with us right now, the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations. Ambassador, always good having you. So there will be a response to your response, and on we go. What do you think?
Well, Neil, I told you when we spoke a few weeks ago that what happened on October 1st, we will not sit idly by. We will retaliate. That's exactly what we did last night. We sent a very clear message to Iran that you cannot send 200 ballistic missiles into Israel and expect us not to react. But unlike the Iranians, they targeted civilians. They used ballistic missiles, to say the least, which are not accurate. We used highly precise weapons, and we targeted military facilities. And it was a very successful operation. Just look at the map, see the distance between Israel and Iran, and think about the capabilities we have today to reach everywhere in Iran. I think today they know that they are vulnerable, and we would advise them not to challenge us.
So there you have it, you guys. So we are hearing there will be a retaliatory response. This coming out from Fox, and this article from the New York Post today says the U.S. reportedly is ready. If Iran responds to the Israeli attack, there will be consequences, they are saying. Now, the article says that the U.S. is reportedly ready to react if Iran responds to Israeli retaliatory bombardment. So the United States is going to be having a hand in this, as one source warned of potentially consequences should Tehran act out. If Iran reacts, the United States will be ready and there will be consequences, the U.S. source told KANN News. However, we do not want to see this happen. This should be the end point of the direct exchange of fire between Israel and Iran. So they are saying they want this to be the end of it. No more retaliatory attacks. And we heard that a U.S. representative said this, that this should be the end. That is what they are hoping for, but it sounds like that is not what is going to be happening. As you just heard in the video footage, they said there will be responses to this according to Iran today, October the 26th, 2024. Israel launched the strike against Iran early Saturday, which resulted in the loss of life of at least 2 soldiers. We're now hearing that's 4, and hit strategic military targets, including drone and ballistic missile manufacturing and launch sites, as well as air defense systems. The strikes were retaliation for Iran's direct attacks on Israel on October 1st. A few hours after the attacks, Tehran vowed to respond with a proportional reaction. So Iran is saying there will be retaliation for what has unfolded. And here is a look at the planes that departed that carried out the strikes in Iran. Israel notified the U.S. before striking, but Washington was not involved in the operations, a U.S. official told Reuters. As the Israelis have stated, their response was an exercise in self-defense and specifically avoided populated areas and focused solely on military targets. contrary to Iran's attack against Israel that targeted Israel's most populous city, a senior U.S. government official said. The United States was not a participant in this operation. It is our claim to accelerate diplomacy and to de-escalate tensions in the Middle Eastern region. We urge Iran to cease its attacks on Israel so that this cycle of fighting can end without further escalation. So the United States still pushing for diplomacy, a ceasefire in some form or fashion. A senior official from the Biden administration reiterated that the U.S. was fully prepared to back up Israel in the case of an Iranian response, and we're hearing that this could escalate significantly. The concern is regional war, potentially global war, as we saw from the previous article. World War III fears are growing at this time, as we're hearing that Iran is shifting into a retaliatory position, and they're concerned that they could be seeking out nuclear weapons in response to what is unfolding, no longer focused on the axis of evil, those proxy groups, but rather focusing on potential nuclear weapons. Now, in addition to that, Israel's Day of Repentance, this is what they're calling it. The strikes against Iran, they will continue if this regime responds. The IDF warns. So they are warning that there will be responses to what is going on. Iran has said they will respond. Israel is saying that there will be additional responses to this as well. So we're just hearing it is going to go back and forth. There will be escalations. If the regime in Iran were to make this mistake of beginning a new round of escalations, we will be obligated to respond, the IDF spokesperson warned. And again, these articles coming out today, October 26, 2024. Now, this article says, after Israel's daring aerial military strikes in Iran earlier Saturday, the Jewish state announced that it is prepared to continue to go on the offensive against the world's worst state sponsors of terrorism, the Islamic Republic of Iran, if Tehran responds. Now, the Israeli Defense Force, the spokesperson, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, said, if the regime in Iran were to make the mistake of beginning a new round of escalations, which we're hearing they are, we will be obligated to respond. Our message is clear. All those who threaten the state of Israel and seek to drag the region into a wider escalation, they will pay a heavy price. He added, we demonstrated today that we have both the capability and the resolve to act decisively, and we are prepared, on offensive and defensive, to defend the state of Israel and the people of Israel. Israel dubbed its Saturday mission Days of Repentance as a response to Iran's launch of its barrage of around 200 ballistic missiles on October 1st into the Holy Land. Iran said that it attacked Israel as retaliation for the IDF's elimination of the Tehran-backed global Hezbollah group leader Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut. Pressure on Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from the Biden-Harris administration seemed to have paid off on Jerusalem, limiting its historic attack on Iran to purely military installations. Israel avoided knocking out Iran's illicit nuclear weapon sites and its vast oil production enterprise. Israel opted for the least aggressive response against the Islamic Republic, conducting precise strikes on military targets, noted Lisa Daftari, an Iran expert and editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk. Now, Daftari told Fox News Digita, this approach raises questions about whether the U.S. influenced Israel to adopt a more restrained response, possibly to prevent further escalation. One could argue these strikes successfully reestablished deterrence, while it can also be said that Israel missed an opportunity to target more crucial sites. Many factors, including the timing, target selection, and strike intensity, were complicated by a U.S. leak and our upcoming elections. Despite these pressures, Israel appears prepared to change its approach if the Islamic Republic decides to escalate further. Now, on Saturday, Secretary of Defense Austin issued a statement on X noting that he had spoken with his Israeli counterpart, where he reaffirmed the ironclad commitment of the United States to Israel's security and right to self-defense. I made it clear that the United States maintains an enhanced force posture to defend U.S. personnel, Israel, and partners across the region in the face of threats from Iran and Iran-backed terrorist organizations, and it's determined to prevent any actor from exploiting tensions or expanding the conflict in the region. And there you can see the post on X. So the United States saying, we are right there with Israel. We will continue to back them. And I shared with you the previous article that the United States said, we are ready for whatever escalation unfolds. If Iran responds, which we're hearing they will be, and there's concern that this could be escalating to a nuclear level. Now, a senior U.S. official said on Friday that Israel conducted precision airstrikes against multiple military targets across Iran and outside populated areas. The official added that the United States played no role in the mission and that the president and his national security team, of course, worked with the Israelis over recent weeks to encourage Israel to conduct a response that was targeted and proportional, a lower risk of civilian harm, and that appears to have been precisely what transpired this evening. So they're saying this was a successful, good response that was very precise and targeted and took down a lot of their missiles that could potentially attack Israel. Mardo Sogham, the chief editor of Iran's international English website, told Fox News Digital, the regime and its media are downplaying the attack. They are saying it was ineffective. The air defenses are wonderful. They claim Israel's attacks had minimal damage. Some of the regime's hardliners are openly urging a counterattack. Iran's foreign ministry is saying its right of response is still reserved. He chalked up the foreign ministry response to cliché-like diplomatic language and noted that no one witnessed the S-300 air defense system being fired, suggesting that Israel bypassed Iran's vaunted Russian-made counter-missile apparatus. And here you can actually see one of the pilots that took this mission on last night, an IDF female pilot in her plane as a part of the Days of Repentance mission against Iran, IDF spokesperson unit. You can see right there. Now, my analysis is that the U.S. and Israel seem to have put Iran in a bind. The U.S. has warned Iran not to respond. So if Iran responds, it could warrant a U.S. response, said the Iran expert. Israeli counterstrikes reportedly assassinated 4 Iranian soldiers, one of whom was an officer, according to the regime-controlled media. It is unclear whether Tehran will up an ante and launch a new missile attack against the Jewish state. Fox News Digital approached an IDF spokesperson about an Israeli news report saying Israel was preparing for retaliatory Iranian ballistic missile strikes. The IDF spokesperson said, "It's not anything special. We're always preparing." And we've actually heard the United States has already prepared additional THAAD missile, anti-missile systems in Israel to help them as they were anticipating that there would be retaliatory strikes coming from Iran after this response from the October 1st attack. Axios reported that Israel issued a pre-attack warning to Iran's regime. The Israelis made it clear to the Iranians in advance what they are going to attack in general and what they are not going to attack, a source told Axios. The IDF did not immediately respond to Fox News Digital on this report. Former Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid, leader of one of Israel's main opposition parties, posted criticism of the attack on X, saying that it was wasted opportunity. A translation of his post read in part, "The decision not to attack strategic and economic targets in Iran was wrong. We could and should have exacted a much heavier price from Iran." The Times of Israel reported that former defense minister and leader of the Yisrael Beitenu party, Avdor Lieberman, said Israel failed to exact a real price from the Islamic Republic and criticized the government for its showmanship. So they're saying that what unfolded was not nearly enough for what happened to Israel on October 1st and what has been taking place. Many critics coming out and said they should have exacted a greater price against Iran in that. And I shared with you, Israel has warned Iran, do not retaliate. Do not respond to this. Now we're going to say that this is even. Gary Schreeb, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Imagine if all the government actually used all of its resources and technology to better the world instead of to destroy everyone's homes. What an idea. Wow. Thank you for that, Gary Schreeb, and thank you for the $10 super chat. I will continue to keep you up to date. And also, do me a favor. I see we got 2,400 people live with me in the room. If you haven't done so yet and you appreciate the updates, take a second, hit that like button. Helps spread this out further. Just need 50 more likes to get to 1,200. That would be exactly half of the room right now, as we got 2,401 people. I would appreciate it. Help spread this out further. And also, if this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe. Now, let's take a look at this article. As Israel has told Iran, do not respond. Iran is saying they're going to be responding. And if you missed the previous articles, we had heard that there are World War III fears that are exploding as Iran is feared to shift on nuclear weapons amid direct war with Israel, as we're hearing that they could be shifting from the axis of evil into focusing on nuclear weapon responses. And the United States, as I shared with you earlier, saying they are ready if Iran responds to the Israeli attacks, and they said there will be consequences. And you can see all these articles coming out today, October the 26th, 2024. Now, Israel has warned Iran before Operation Days of Repentance, do not respond. The Israeli message was conveyed to the Iranians through several third parties, making it clear what Israel would target and what it would not. So they were saying, we're going to go ahead and hit these targets in general, and you do not want to respond. We're giving you a warning. We're not going to be hitting your people. Israel sent a message to Iran on Friday before the retaliatory airstrikes, warning the Iranians not to respond, according to 3 sources familiar with the matter. The Israeli message aimed to limit the ongoing exchange of attacks between Israel and Iran and prevent wider escalation, sources say. U.S. and Israeli officials reported that 3 waves of airstrikes took place on Saturday morning local time, later named Operation Days of Repentance. Now, I shared this with you live while the attacks were taking place, that waves were taking place of attacks from Israel on different targets, not only in Iran, but we also heard in in Iraq and Syria as well. Different cities were hit, and we heard that they were hitting these various locations that potentially could target aircrafts coming from Israel to Iran. So they were wiping those out while they were making their way through and were able to get through to Iran. Now, the first wave targeted Iran's air defense systems. So these are the ones they hit, while the second and third focused on missile and drone bases and weapons production sites. Iran claimed that it thwarted the Israeli attacks with only limited damage reported to military targets. Israeli officials stated the strikes were in retaliation for Iran's ballistic missile attack on October 1st. Now, the Israeli message was conveyed to the Iranians through several third-party sources. Now, the Israelis made it clear to the Iranians what they were going to target and what they were not going to target. 2 additional sources said Israel warned Iran not to respond, stressing that further retaliation from Iran would trigger a larger Israeli response, especially if Israeli civilians were harmed. The Prime Minister's office declined to comment. Iran has stated that it does not seek a full-scale war with Israel, but would retaliate if attacked. So we are hearing that they are coming out and saying there will be retaliations. On Saturday, IDF spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari warned that any escalation from Iran would compel Israel to respond. A U.S. official stated that the U.S. did not participate in the Israeli operations, but emphasized that if Iran retaliates, the U.S. is prepared to defend Israel. This should be the end of the direct military exchange between Israel and Iran, the official said. If Iran attacks Israel again, there will be consequences. We communicated that directly and indirectly to Iran. The United States saying to Iran, do not respond, or we will help defend Israel in this exchange that is taking place. So the United States coming and putting their foot down in the middle of this as well. Now, no further escalation. One channel used to convey the message to Iran was Dutch Foreign Minister Casper Veldkamp, who wrote on X, I spoke with the Iranian foreign minister about war and rising tensions in the region. I urged restraint from all parties to prevent escalation. Now, U.S. officials expect Iran to respond to the Israeli attack in the coming days, though in a controlled way that could allow Israel to avoid further conflict. It is our goal to accelerate diplomacy and to reduce... it jumped on me here. To accelerate diplomacy and to reduce further conflict. It is our goal to accelerate diplomacy and reduce tensions in the Middle East, said National Security Council spokesperson Sean Savet. We urge Iran to halt its attack on Israel to end this cycle of conflict without further escalation, they said. So Israel is saying they've given them a warning. Do not escalate. Do not respond. And we're hearing that if they do, Israel is saying that there will be retaliation. The United States is saying if they respond, there will be consequences. The U.S. will be involved in this. And we're hearing Iran is saying they will be responding. And this is sparking World War III fears, as Iran is feared to be shifting its focus on nuclear weapons instead of the proxy groups. And Iran says that it does have the right to self-defense after Israel's attacks, as the U.S. urges to end the missile strikes. A senior official of the Biden administration told reporters that this should be the end of the direct military exchange between Israel and Iran, as we had just read. They are saying you guys need to de-escalate, back away, back down from the conflict. We're hearing that is not the case. Things are escalating and simply ramping up. Now, this article says 3 waves of pre-drawn strikes on military targets in Iran on Saturday completed Israel's retaliation on Iran, the Israeli Defense Force said, in what U.S. officials and others hoped would be the last shot in a hostile exchange between the two regional powers that has had the world on edge for weeks, fearing a dangerous expansion of the war. So there was 3 waves in that retaliatory attack, and they're saying, U.S. officials are saying, okay, that should be the end. No more responses. Well, we're hearing that this is not the end, and we've already heard Israel say that they are preparing for a long, drawn-out war. They're anticipating Iran will be responding, and the United States also believes this as well, as we saw them provide Israel with the THAAD anti-missile system to defend Israel for retaliation from Iran. So even though they are pushing for this to be the end, it sounds like everybody knows this is not over. The IDF said that it hit aerial defense systems and missile manufacturing facilities in Iran, avoiding nuclear and oil facilities in what appeared to be a limited attack aimed at deterrence by showing its military might, while avoiding a major escalation. In a briefing following the attacks, a senior official of the Biden administration told reporters that this should be the end of the direct military exchange between Israel and Iran. The official said this is a very strong view of the United States, and it's been communicated to our partners throughout the region. Iran's foreign ministry condemned the attacks in a statement on Saturday, asserting Iran's inherent right to self-defense, but added that the country will uphold its responsibility for regional peace and stability, making no mention of imminent retaliation. So this was what a lot of people were speculating, was that perhaps Iran would not respond. But I shared with you the article and the video footage that we're hearing now. They are saying there will be a response. Iranian President Mossad Pezeshkian said in July that Iran does not seek a wider war in the Middle East, and that such a conflict would have no winners. Something that Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi echoed last week, saying if a major war breaks out in the region, America will be dragged into it, which is something we do not want. Earlier in October, however, Pezeshkian threatened harsher reactions if Israel acts against Tehran. So we had seen those threats coming out, and now we're hearing this is exactly the route that we are going. The Iranian army said 2 soldiers, now we've heard it's 4, were assassinated in the attacks, without adding further details. It also said that the strikes targeted military centers in the province of Tehran, Uzbekistan, and Ilam, but downplayed the attack, saying damage was limited and that its defense forces successfully intercepted the strike. Iran's state media reported several explosions that could be heard from the capital, Tehran, and video footage verified by NBC News showed Iran's air defense forces appearing to engage with Israeli projectiles. The capital itself was not directly hit. And here is a post from X where you can see some of the footage that has come out. You can go ahead and check those out on X to see the video footage. Now, the strike drew condemnation from other nations in the Middle East. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, they called the attack a flagrant violation of Iran's sovereignty, while Iraq accused Israel of continuing its aggressive policies. Jordan, one of the U.S.'s closest allies in the region, called the strike a dangerous escalation that threatens the stability of the region. The IDF said the strikes were in response to months of continuous attacks from Iran and its allies in the region, the latest in its tit-for-tat cycle of response and retaliation that has been ongoing now for months. On October 1st, Iran fired a barrage of missiles at Israel, which it said was a retaliation for Israel's assassination of the Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran in July, as well as the assassination of the Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut in September, alongside a senior commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. That barrage caused little damage to the country. The assassination aimed to weaken the Iran-backed Hamas and Hezbollah, with whom Israel has been engaged in heavy warfare in Gaza and Lebanon since October 23rd. They came after a tense exchange between Israel and Iran in April that began when Israel bombed an Iranian consular compound in the Syrian capital of Damascus, ending the commanders and advisors of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Iran responded to that attack with a drone and missile barrage on Israel that was at the time unprecedented. Israel retaliated with limited strikes on Iran, which caused little damage. Arturo Herrera, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Iran will never stop, and neither will Israel. Might as well do what we have to do now and finish this thing now. The U.S. must support Israel. Thanks, Steve. Thank you for the $10 super chat, Arturo. And yes, that is a perspective of a lot of people right now. We're hearing that as the perspective of former President Donald Trump. He's saying, go ahead and let them deal with it. Let Israel address these proxy groups and Iran directly. Go ahead and target nuclear facilities. This is an existential threat. Why not let them just go ahead and address it now? So you're not alone in that perspective. However, the current administration, the Biden administration, and we're hearing the policies that will be continuing on from Kamala Harris, if she is the president, they are saying we need to come up with a truce and a ceasefire now agreement to stop the conflict that is taking place between the proxy groups and Israel. Israel saying, well, where are our hostages? So very different perspectives and takes on this. And they are saying that whoever wins the U.S. presidential elections will have a major determining factor on the future of the conflict that is currently taking place in the Middle East. And we're hearing that things are escalating. Iran and Israel, they have been engaged in a shadow war for decades that prior to last year has mostly been fought with covert attacks and via Iran's proxies, which includes Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis in Yemen, and forces in Syria and Iraq. And as I mentioned to you, those missile locations in Syria and Iraq were hit last night as well, which allowed the planes to fly across both of those nations in the airspace and get to Iran. U.S. defense officials told NBC News that Israel had told their American counterparts about Saturday's strike ahead of time, but that the U.S. was not involved in the attacks. While Iran had previously promised to retaliate to any form of Israeli aggression, some believe the apparently limited nature of Israel's attacks could potentially serve as an end to direct conflict between the two nations. Now, Michael Mishtin, head of the Palestinian Studies Forum of Tel Aviv University Dayan Center told NBC News on Saturday that Israel has given Iran a reason not to respond in a way that escalates tensions further, adding that Israel has already shown its air defenses can handle an attack, while the presence of American troops would also serve as a deterrent. It seems right now, at least, they have more reasons not to respond in a very tough manner, he said, before expressing caution that it was too early to tell the full extent of Israel's strikes. Yossi Melkberg, a senior consulting fellow with Chatham House's Middle East and North African program, echoed Milstein's cautions of cautious optimism. The fact that Iran is downplaying the attack and what's been hit is good news, he told NBC News on the phone. By them being dismissive about the damage, it gives them space to say, that's done, scores are settled. Melkberg added that the end of any direct conflict with Iran, alongside the assassinations of the leaders in Iran's backed Hamas and Hezbollah militant groups, this could create space to move from military actions to some sort of diplomatic political sphere. Whether Israel and Iran, they will think like this is a different matter, he added, and so we will see. But as I shared with you, the headlines coming out, we're hearing that Iran is likely going to be responding to this, and that is why today, October the 26th, 2024, we are seeing World War III fears explode as Iran is feared to shift onto nuclear weapons now amid a direct war with Israel, moving their focus from these proxy groups. The U.S. is saying they are ready if Iran responds to Israel's attack, and there will be consequences for Iran. Israel is calling this the Day of Repentance. They're saying their strikes against Iran, they will continue if the terror regime responds, and we're hearing that Israel has said they're preparing for a long, drawn-out war, that this is the beginning of many phases of attacks, and they didn't even focus on primary targets. A lot of political leaders very upset about that, saying we should have hit their nuclear facilities, we should have hit their oil, we should have damaged their economy and their ability to respond. So they're saying this was a very restrained response that came from Israel. And Israel warns Iran before the Operation Day of Repentance, do not respond. We're going to hit you. Respond to the October 1st ballistic missile attack. Do not respond. We're hearing that Iran is saying they are going to be responding, and that they are saying they believe they have a right to defend themselves and respond to what is taking place. The U.S. is urging them to step away, to de-escalate the situation, to stop the missile exchanges. But we will see, you guys. It sounds like Iran is going to be responding to this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think that Iran will be responding? If you think they will be, drop a 1. If you think no, put a 2. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And while you're dropping those 1s and 2s, you guys, don't forget, take a quick second, hit that like button if you haven't done so yet. I see we got 2,323 people live with me in the room. 1,609 likes. Just takes a second. Helps spread this out further so more people can get the latest information. Also, subscribe to stay up to date if this is your first time here. It's totally free. Why not? I'll keep you up to speed on everything. And I'm seeing those 1s pouring in. And yeah, I got to say, from the articles that we are reading right now, and from the video footage that we saw, it sounds like Iran, they will be responding to this. They will be responding to these attacks. But there is hope that they won't be, and that somehow we can de-escalate this situation. But it sounds a whole lot like there will be retaliatory attacks that will be coming from Iran, and then as a result, Israel will be hitting them back as well. Now, we will see. And like I said here on the channel, I'll be sure to keep you up to date on everything. I will cite all the sources, put it on the screen, read right from it. These articles that I'm referencing, all of them linked in the description below, all of them coming out today, October the 26th, 2024, with the new news coming out that they are saying it looks like Iran will be responding, and there are fears that World War III could break out with this, and that Iran could be shifting their attention from their proxy groups to establishing nuclear weapons to retaliate and respond. But like I said, I'll be sure to share everything as it comes out and make sure that you guys know the latest that is going on. And also, check out my other live streams in the past 24 hours. If you missed it, I actually covered the attacks live with you, and I also shared with you some of the updates on the damage that unfolded this morning. And now today we're hearing it looks like this is not the end. This is just the beginning. So all of you that are dropping those 1s in the comments, I got to say I agree with you in my personal opinion, but we will see. So that is the latest, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Hit that like button, subscribe to stay up to date. Thank you for the super chats and the support. Appreciate you guys a ton. And also, there are additional resources linked down below for those of you that are interested, that want to stock up on potential items to keep you and your family safe during all of the conflict that is going on in our world. But I always say here on the channel, don't be scared, be prepared. Knowledge is power. Let's not stick our heads in the sand and pretend like these things aren't going on. This is happening right now in real life. Let's be aware. The proverb says that the simple sees what's coming and does not change their path and falls into calamity, but the wise, they see what's coming and then they change their path to make sure they can stay out of harm's way. Because I say that knowledge is power, but the true power is in the application of knowledge. Don't be scared. Be prepared. Take steps necessary to keep you and your family safe. So, like I said, I'll continue to keep you guys up to date, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care. God bless you guys. This is Steve.